Hi and welcome to this week's episode. During this episode, we're going to be talking about how to identify the different birds that are on the Gulf of Mexico here in Texas and how to know the difference between, say, a whooping crane versus a white pelican, a gray egret, and all of the other tall white birds that are out there. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. So I have been spending a ton of time here in Texas this winter photographing whooping cranes and taking clients out to see those whooping cranes. And although usually my clients are pretty in the know on what they're looking at, we see a lot of other people who come up to us and ask, is that white bird a whooping crane? So I want to explain a little bit about which birds we're seeing out here in Texas in the winter, and hopefully this will help with your IDing on whether or not you're seeing a whooping crane or you're seeing something else. All right, so there are tons of different types of big, tall white birds that are on the Gulf in the winter. One of the most common ones you're going to see is a great egret. The great egret stands pretty tall. It is white, but it has a yellow beak with a little bit of green by the nose and a nice tall long neck. So that is going to be your great egret. Another bird that you're going to see more often than not is the snowy egret. Snowy egret is smaller than the great egret and tends to have a yellow beak and is got a little bit more ruffled feathers in the front and oftentimes in the top of the head. Another white bird that you may encounter is a reddish egret that is in the white morph. So a white morphed reddish egret. These birds tend to have more of a pink bill, black legs, and they exhibit a behavior that is different than the other egrets. They like to run around with their wings open when they're fishing versus standing still and spearing the fish. So if you see a bird that's exhibiting that behavior, it might be a white morphed reddish egret. Another white bird that is very commonly mistaken for a whooping crane is the American white pelican. Now these guys look very different when they're in the water. They have the big giant yellow beak, but when they're flying they do have similar qualities like the black wingtips under the feathers. So one of the biggest tells, especially when they're flying, is that they'll fly in larger flocks. Typically whooping cranes are going to be flying in either pairs or a family of 3. So if you're seeing 5, 6, 7, 8 birds flying together, they might just be white pelicans instead. All right, and another white bird or a light-colored bird that is very often mistaken for the whooping crane is the sandhill crane. Now these guys are gray, so they're not white, but from a distance you might think that they look a little white. These guys are going to be about 4 feet tall, so still a pretty tall bird, but definitely some differences. You're going to see these guys in larger flocks. So again, if you're seeing a lot of these birds around, probably not a whooping crane. They're going to be a grayer colored bird, and they have that red cap. All right, lastly, the bird that we're all looking for is the whooping crane. The whooping crane, once you've seen it, you're going to know what you're looking for from here on out. These guys are 5 feet tall, the tallest bird in North America. So once you see them, you're going to know that tall white bird out there is a whooping crane. There are only 536 of them in Texas, so there's not very many of them. So you're not going to see large flocks. They're very territorial, so you don't typically see very many together in a field. And they have that red cap, those black legs, and when they're flying, the all-white body with the black wingtips. So hopefully that helps. I hope you go out and see these beautiful birds. They're one of the most endangered birds in the world, and we are so lucky to have them here in Texas. Hopefully this helps you identify which birds you're looking for. And as always, if you are interested in coming and seeing them, take a guide. They're going to help you find these birds a lot easier than you trying to figure out which birds are the whooping crane, and they'll know the spots that these cranes typically hang out in. All right, if you've ever seen a whooping crane, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel so they get all the updates, and we'll catch you next week.